Hey everybody, this is your powers and exponents video. Make sure you have your notes in front of you. Make sure you are filling in your notes as we go through this video. So here we go. The first thing you need to know is the word evaluate. You're going to see that a lot. You're going to hear me say that. You're going to see it in directions everywhere, all over the place. The word evaluate means to solve. Very important. So anytime you see that, means we're trying to find an answer. So if you see the word evaluate, make sure you solve it. Very important. Okay, so we're going to show you up here, we're calling this powers and exponents. This is a 2. The base number is 2. That's a regular old number that we're used to. The 5 is a smaller number. That can be called an exponent or it can be called a power, either one. And after you write that down, I want you to think about something here. 2 is the regular number. 2 is the number that we're saying we are using. We're using the 2. The 2 is what's important. That's why it's much larger than the 5. The 5 is an exponent, which means it's telling us how to use that 2. So in this case, it says it's 5. So what that means is we're going to use the 2 5 times. So take a look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Since the multiplication sign is in there, that means clearly we're going to multiply. But notice, there's no 5s in here whatsoever. All you see are the base number, which is 2. The exponent is smaller because it's less important. It tells us how many times to use the base number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Very important that you know that. Feel free to go back and listen to that again if you need to. All right, our directions here say write as a product. Product is multiplication in standard form. So if I give you this base number 10 with an exponent of 4, what that means is I'm going to multiply 10 by itself 4 times. So it's going to look like this. So I'm multiplying 10 by itself 4 times. Notice there's no 4 here. What am I using? The 10, and how many times am I using it? 4 times. So you try number 2 on your own. Feel free to stop the video and fill it in. This says 5 to the power of 3 or 5 to the 3rd power. That means we're using 5 3 times. Nothing to it. All right, the next one says y to the power of 4 or y to the 4th power. Well, what was y called? X, Y, Z, A, B, C. They're called variables. Let's remember that. Variables, 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 variables. Variables are the letters that we use in math. So y to the power of 4, does that change anything? Go ahead and write down what you think y to the power of 4 is going to look like written out. So we're using the base number, which in this case is y, and how many times are we using it? 1, 2, 3, 4. Nothing to it. That's all there is to it. It can be any variable, of course. All right, so stop the video and see if you can figure that one out. To the power of 3 means I've used 3 of these guys. And then 3 squared means I've used 2 of those guys. That's it. Okay, here's our next set of directions. You're moving on in your notes. This says write in exponential form. Look what we see up there in that word. You see the word exponent. So we're going to write these numbers using exponents. So I see a bunch of 6's, so 6 is going to be our base number. How many times am I using the 6? I'm using it 4 times, so it's going to be 6 to the power of 4. So the base number, look how the base stays the same. All this tells me, this exponent, is how many times am I using that 6. All right, so try this one quickly. Write down what you think it is. Base number is y. How many y's do we have? We have 3 of them. Nothing to it. Go ahead and try that one. Base number is 5. We're using 2 of those. And the next base number is 7. We're using 4 of those. Notice there's a multiplication sign in between. As always, stop, pause, move it backwards, do what you need to do. Okay, there's that word evaluate that we talked about in the beginning. Evaluate meant to solve. So, in this case, we have 2 to the power of 6, or 2 to the 6th power. So I'm going to use the base number 2. I'm going to use it 6 times. So here we go. So write yours out. And then at this point, kids try to start doing 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8 times 2. Please don't do that. That gets people confused. You lose track of what 2's you have. Please don't do that. We are going to be much better than that. We are going to be efficient here. So make sure you're with me. We're going to be efficient. So everybody knows 2 times 2 is 4. So if we know that and that's easy, why don't we repeat that a few times? Right? Why don't we group those into a bunch of 2 times 2's? That's easy. From there, we can move on to 4 times 4. 4 times 4 is 16. So now the only thing we haven't used is this 4 over here. So let's bring that down. And let's use our brains here. We're going to do 16 times 4 in our head. We would break down that 16 into a 10 and a 6 because those are easy to multiply by. 10 times 4 we know is 40. 6 times 4 we know is 24. And if we combine those, 40 and 64, or sorry, 40 and 24 gets us that 64. Remember, all this stuff over here in the blue is stuff that we're working on trying to do in our head. So that would be the efficient way to handle 2 to the power of 6. Please feel free to rewind that and go back through that so that you are certain as to how to do it. Okay, we're flipping to the back. We got notes on the back now. I know, what a big mean jerk your teacher is. Too bad for you. We're doing greater than, less than, or equal to. So what I'm looking for here is, which one of these is bigger? So what I want you to do is write down what 2 to the power of 3 is. Put an answer there. And then do the same thing on the other side. Write down what 3 to the power of 2 is. 2 to the power of 3 are 2 cubed. We'll talk about that in a minute. It's definitely not 6. I hope you didn't put 6. It's 8. Over here, 3 squared. 3 times 3 is 9. And last time I checked, 9 is greater than 8. Make sure you put this, whatever you guys call this, the Pac-Man eating the 3 squared maybe. Okay, and then try number 10. Feel free to stop the video and do that one, please. Six to the power of 2, 6 times 6 is 36. 3 cubed, or 3 to the power of 3 is 27. 36 is greater than 27. And a couple of pieces of information you need here. What if we have something to the power of 1? Well, that's kind of an easy one. Anything to the power of 1. How many 4s are we talking about here? We're talking about just using one of them, right? So 4 to the power of 1 is just plain old 4. Any number to the power of 1 equals that same number. So 5 to the power of 1 would be 5. 100 to the power of 1 would be 100. X to the power of 1 would be X. Easy. What about if something is to the power of 0? So that's a little trickier. If something to the power of 0, it's always going to be the whole number, the base number of 1. Any number to the power of 0 equals 1. Well, we're not using any 5s, right? But if we're using 5 as the base number, we got to have a place to start. We're starting at 1. So make sure you stop it if you need to. Get all those notes down. And we're running here with our books for some strange reason. Anything squared, very quickly, anything to the power of 2 is, we refer to that as squared, so that's 7 squared. If you had x to the power of 2, it would be x squared. If you had 100 to the power of 2, it would be 100 squared. Easy peasy. Power of 3 is what we're talking about now. So to the power of 3, anything to the power of 3 can be cubed. 4 to the power of 3 is 4 cubed. 10 to the power of 3 is 10 cubed. X to the power of 3 is x cubed. Remember from class, the 2 we talk about describes things that are two-dimensional, like a square. Okay? The 3 talks about things that are three-dimensional. If we take that same square and we can make it a cube. So the difference between two-dimensional and three-dimensional. That is your powers and exponents video. There is one more slide on your notes. You can fill that in for homework.